Om Shanti. The subject of self-transformation means to change the form, as it suggests self-transformation, where you're actually making a difference to your feelings and producing different feelings according to different events that happen, different situations, how we react to things, how tactful we are or diplomatic we are. And so that you're actually changing the feelings that are deeply etched in the subconscious mind. We call them sanskars. Some would call them personality traits. But what happens is that when an action is performed, it leaves like a scar in the subconscious mind, and once it's formed a habit, then it becomes a habitual way of being. If you like, it actually molds our state of being. So the human is our physical body, and the being is the soul or spirit or consciousness, if you want to use that word. If you're not happy with the word soul, then consciousness. So it's human consciousness we're actually changing. The fundamental difference between a human consciousness and an animal consciousness is the power of reasoning is very apparent in a human being, even though they might seem unreasonable, but they're using that part of them which the animal hasn't got so much in abundance. Although they're quite intelligent creatures, many animals, but a human being can actually formulate things easier because they use this thing called the intellect, where there's understanding and there's discrimination, and also your reasoning, judging, and intuition is very often part and parcel of the thing that's called the intellect. So when you actually look at the mind and how it races, it's really the intellect that controls the mind when it's got a higher level of understanding. And when I say higher, I really mean a different perspective, a different way of seeing things. Your perspectives are through the filter of your intellect and your sanskars, or your personality traits. So how you see things has a great effect on how much transformation takes place, whether you see things in a light way or whether you see things in a heavy way, whether you see things in a positive way or whether you see things in a negative way. There's other aspects of this way of seeing things, because it may be that when someone does something or says something, it feels personal, and no doubt it was meant in a personal way, but we've actually got the choice whether we take it personally. And some people say, how can I not take it personally, because they feel so insulted or affected by what other people say. But you've got to also take in consideration other people's attitude and the way that they actually feel about life, and very often the way they feel about most people. And when you're in the firing in their sights, then it may be, what someone once says was, it may be your turn, because everyone gets their turn, because this world is a world that is filled with stress. And so some people are more stressed than others, basically because it's their habit. They actually take everything on board rather than remain light, like the water off a duck's back. And this was always going to be a problem, because when you try to get people to understand that things are not as important as they believe them to be, that their own consciousness, their own virtues, and their own inner values are far more important than the things that people value of an external nature. So when you value too much something being personal, then you're taking it on board, which means it will stay with you for longer, and it will stay in the subconscious mind, because it gets promoted to the subconscious mind, and that will then disturb the sleep state and also affect the organs of the body. So you're basically actually practicing not taking anything in a heavy way, keeping everything light, seeing the benefit of what comes up, what happens in your life, as this is very much a time to develop patience, tolerance, and this ability to adjust, so that what happens is you start to get greater clarity. When there's overthinking and over talking about every situation that comes up, and it's creating this pressure cooker effect, it's only because you're not diverting the mind away from something that is more beneficial than it apparently seems to be, because everything is happening for a reason. So it's actually coming from the past, and the way it happens is that when someone says something, or when someone does something that's of a negative nature, how you respond is according to the habits that have been formulated in the subconscious, and some people even call it the unconscious, as deep as that, because it's very deep rooted to try to make you commit to acting in the same way again. And this is why all these arguments that take place between husband and wife and family members, it's like it's the same old record. It sounds the same. It's the same ingredients again and again, and it's just going in a cycle. And the way it happens is that the intellect, which is supposed to be used for judgment and discrimination, gets bypassed. So the subconscious habits, or we call them sanskars, because it's a clear indication that there's scars or there's marks on the subconscious, which actually memorize the actions that I've formulated. I brought them into action, so they leave marks or scars. So I call them sanskars, but if you want to, you can call them personality traits, tendencies, resolves, or habits. It doesn't really matter, but it's a memory. And the more the reactivity takes place on the same sanskar, the deeper the sanskar becomes. Like the sanskar of anger, it can be triggered within a moment, which bypasses the intellect, because the person feels dramatically insulted, basically, and we need to take the drama out of it so that it doesn't become a crisis. So when you're actually taking the drama out of it, you're taking all the emotion that's attached to it, and underneath that emotion there's a lot of power, the power of peace, the power of love, And also the power of happiness, because you feel more inclined to love yourself when you're reacting under the influence of morality. So you're not reacting under a negative, you're reacting with humility, with lightness, with firmness, of course. Doesn't mean you say you can't be firm, you can't say what needs to be said. But if you go further than that into retail and detail, then what you're doing is you're going into the negative. So the fact that you need to say something or respond in some way, even we can use the word react, because once it becomes a positive sanskar, then it can react and it will start to react for you. So at the present time we've got these negative sanskars that react according to a negative word because we feel insulted, belittled, small. And really the only reason why we do feel like that is because the way that we're educated. We're educated to try to be seen as good at things and try to leave an impression, and we're actually trying to create a feel-good factor through the eyes of other people, and that's not very healthy, because all you need is the feel-good factor of your own prestige, of your own dignity. And people don't make enough of this when they've responded with a lot of peace, firmness, strength, not got into too much conversation when it's heating up, because you're the one that can cool everything down, because you have the knowledge and they don't have the knowledge. So you're actually using the influence of being a peaceful soul, not just a peaceful soul, but a powerful soul. So you've got these interests which have been generated in this kind of misinformation, this programming that's taken place, that if you don't react the same as they're reacting, then you're weak. This is a negative programming, to actually be able to respond in a light way, in a warm, kind way. Always think to yourself, how would love deal with this situation, even though the person is not actually being overly kind to you. You don't want to develop their level of hate, because people that have developed a lot of hate don't enjoy living with themselves, because they live in that mire, that quagmire, that swamp. And if you think about it, a person can't always have a situation where they blame people. So very often they're just sitting at home mulling over angry thoughts, hateful thoughts, malice, thoughts of malice. And this is very self-destructive, because it affects all the water in the body. There's the body's made to have so much water that when it's has that severity of vibrations affecting it, all that energy goes in the water of the body and goes through all the organs of the body. So you're actually killing your body, really, with all that anger, because a person doesn't get rid of their anger by being angry. They just get rid of the burden of the anger for a while. And once that burden has been removed, then they could watch the television, listen to the news, have altercations with other people, because they're burdened with this heavy sanskar, which is just waiting in the subconscious mind, dormant, and then is waiting for a trigger, for someone to come along or for something to be said. Even their own thoughts of missing out on opportunities in life is all very, very negative, because wherever you've got in your domain at the moment, however much money you've got in your account, whatever health issues you've got in the here and now, are all earned in the law, under the law of karma. So, don't put karma around, don't put karma aside and talk about bad luck. And if I had done it this way, you weren't meant to do it that way. You were meant to do it the way you did it. Things were meant to happen the way they were meant to happen. This is a major aspect of being a peaceful, powerful soul, a being that is not moved, disturbed, shaken, and doesn't feel under pressure. You can still do things in a very proactive way. You can move quickly to do things without being impulsive to do things. There's nothing wrong with the speed, providing the mind is under your control. So the mind goes out of control when we're trying to get things out of the way. And what we need to do more than anything, when we're doing everything we need to do, is speak in peace, move in peace, speak under the influence of humility. Don't be self-righteous, don't be stubborn, don't be aggressive, and don't be bossy. If we don't try to control other people, then we won't feel like other people are trying to control us, because it's a karmic thing. Whatever my output will be my input. Even when someone's just trying to help someone, you notice that they very often react because they feel like someone's trying to control them, and they're not necessarily trying to control them, but that's basically the weapon that they've used to get by in life. And it's almost like they're in fear of anyone trying to control them, and they make a stand against it, and they try to control others. And even with some people, you can't even give them loveful advice. So you've got to know really how to treat others. You've got to think to yourself, is this person really interested in the advice I'm given? There's a few categories of that. Some aren't interested and will react accordingly. Some aren't interested but won't react accordingly. They'll just listen to you, but without much attention, and they may even say behind your back that this person is just full of advice for everyone, but they may never say it to your face. Plenty of people live their lives without people telling them how others feel about them. And so then you would find someone you could really trust and say, do I come across like this? Because some people do come across like this, and they're told they're like this, but they still don't take any notice of it and still continue getting on their soapbox. There are certain people that are like interrogators, and the way that they deal with they get power from, it is superficial power, but you soon pick up on it when there's this clarity, because whenever you're remaining light and positive and taking life as it comes, so not thinking about life, what could happen, what did happen in the past, put a full stop on the past, because there's only now that you're dealing with. And so when these interrogators come along, what they do is they'll open a conversation with you, and as soon as they get some information from you, which is the interrogation, subtle interrogation. There's no bright lights over you, no thumb screws or anything of that nature. But what they do is that they start to advise you on the best way for you to live your life. And that's okay if you've got enough patience and tolerance. But once you know they're playing an interrogator role, then you wouldn't buy into it too much, would you? Because why would you want to listen to that all the time? You'd give them much less information that they can do nothing with, basically. And this has been the ego of grown-ups, really, over the youngsters, and the youngsters feel like they're being spoken down to because they've always, these parents or elders or peers have always got advice for them. And look at the word advice, because it's unnecessary help where a person just gets their superficial power, their feel-good factor. And remember, when anyone gets their feel-good factor from this negative way of dealing with life, then they have to pay the ferryman. It has to be paid back. So therefore someone's going to come along and start to control them, because that's what they're putting out. We only get back what we put out, and everything that we're getting back, hopefully, is going to be just from the past, because we're learning in the present to deal with life differently. If you've got nothing to do, then be creative. Don't just waste time and energy filling the mind with all these facilities that are going on around. Be creative, write a book on virtues, or think about virtues in a deeper way. What really is self-respect, what really is self-worth, because people's self-respect is normally connected to their successes externally, but self-respect is to do with your qualities and your successes internally. So when you pass a particular test and you deal with someone in a different way, remember, you're not expecting any kind of result from them. You're not expecting them to change just because you're trying to transform yourself. That's a fool's gold, really, because sometimes people change, sometimes they won't change for a long time, but nevertheless the seed was sown, and that's all you are really, as a gardener for others. You're a gardener for yourself. You're planting a seed of being a peaceful, loveful being, and you're moving, walking, talking in that awareness of being a peaceful being, a loving being. Your kindness is for everyone, not just for people that you favour, because that will also backfire, because you're more likely, when you have these preferences of who you should be with and who you shouldn't be with, that as well is a dependency, and you'll find yourself in a situation where more negative people start to come into your company, as in like an attraction, because there shouldn't be this preferential treatment whereby one is favoured over another. The one that's not favoured, the one that's favoured the least, needs the most support, the most listening to. If they're very sensitive, then they need someone to come along, and you might be the only person that's ever come along and given them that treatment with that level of respect. And so once again, how would love deal with this person? And of course, if you yourselves are struggling to being a peaceful being, then take time out away from everyone as often as you can, rather than waste time on computers and the World Wide Web and things, but just go inside and start throwing out all the peacelessness that you've got inside of you. Start to throw out the past, start to lessen thoughts about the future, and just think about what is your own presence. This is the major aspect of self-transformation, is that you become aware of the ingredients of your presence, as in peace, love, kindness, warmth, generosity, gentleness, happiness. All these are your true attributes, and they all come in this form together, formulate together, as in like a what do they call this government, whereby they have 2 or 3 governments together. Well, it's like that. It's a cooperation of all your qualities coming together, and all you're doing is becoming more aware of them. And the more aware you are of your own goodness, you'll feel much better, especially as you're throwing all the negative things that either you believe about yourself or other people believe in you about yourself. The way to stop reacting in a negative way is to go into meditation and start to believe that it's no longer there. Start to lose faith in fear, anger, stress. So even though there is stress as a feeling, you're actually de-stressing by using your own peace. Peace is more powerful than peacelessness. Love is more powerful than hate, and happiness is more powerful than unhappiness, because they're connected to your true nature, whereas the secondary nature is a make-up of all those things that we probably believed that we were. I remember when I came to Raj Yoga in the 80s, I didn't believe that anger could ever be chipped away at, could be removed. I thought I was always going to be a relatively aggressive person, not only because I'd seen myself be aggressive, but also because other people were telling me that I was aggressive and out of control at times. So because I believed in that, it allowed it to stay in situ. It allowed me to hold on to it. So you're no longer holding on to it. You're not only not holding on to it, but you're actually throwing it out. So perhaps we'll do some more on self-transformation at another time. But for now we'll finish with some meditation. And I hope you all stay strong, stay free. And make yourself happy, because you're the only one that can really make yourself happy. So allow the self to be completely relaxed. Going inside, behind the form of the physical body, and become aware of your own form of light, pulsating, vibrant, in peace. The peace that is within the self is the light of the self, the love that you have been giving to others. Now give to yourself, give to your mind, love the mind as you would an inner child. It is your child within that needs your care. Remind the mind that you are a peaceful mind, a strong mind, a powerful mind, a mind that will no longer be caught up in other people's dramas. Become aware that it doesn't mean I don't care if I don't get caught up, but I have to care for my own mind in order to care for others' state of mind. Self first, others second. Love the mind, and then love everyone. Give peace to your being, and let there be the awareness of your power of peace, of lightness, increasing, and your powerless, negative vibrations are being transformed into an oasis of power, of fortress and force field, of light fills your body, surrounds your body with a beautiful, powerful atmosphere of divine energy. Say to yourself that nothing bad can ever happen to me because I am not attracting anything bad to happen to me. Like a tower of light, I walk, I move, I rest, I eat and drink, and everything I do, I am absorbing power within myself. Just think of being powerful, being free, being unmoved, who cannot be caught up in other people's drama. You are the healer of others' dramas when you are not caught up in their dramas. Om Shanti.